How you guys doing? Uh, I am trying yet another microphone, and so I got my microphone set up, my new one. It's suspended, so I guess that's supposed to help it somehow. Um, well, the first thing I got a question of is the sound okay? Because like I said, I'm trying something new and just finding out. All right. So first of all, sound. How does it sound? Sound working all right? Sounds good. Okay, great. Thanks, Michael. Well, let's see. Hi, Kotov, Caesar. How are you? Javi, Russell. Good morning. Hater. Hi, Hater. Eric. Hi, Eric. How are things down under? Hi, Rel. Michael again. Hey, Tim. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, Tim. Hey, Boston Collector. Dominic, how are you? Arthur, Timo, how are you guys? It's 2 p.m. in Switzerland. Is that the time I had set it up for? Uh, Tell me something, Timo. Is when you have 2 p.m. in Switzerland, is that in CET, Central European time? Would that be correct? Because I've been putting CET. I don't know if that's right or not. Hi, Lee. 2 p.m. in Madrid. Oh, okay. So I guess it's something. I don't know what time it is. Hi, Canadian Watch Monkey. Alexander, how you doing, neighbor? Okay. Well, today, what I wanted to do, I'm going to have this in going easy. Hey, Timo. Tired of rain. Yeah, we're getting some good weather today. Man, we've had rain, rain, rain. It's cooled things off somewhat, so that's a good thing, I guess. Okie doke. Now today, what I want to do this in two parts. Okay. Um, the first part this morning, what I want to do is I want to talk about going and how to go about finding good deals. Okay. So I mean, at least for me, what how I go about it, and I'm sure there are other ways of doing it, and so I got a haircut. My old barber had a baby, so I was looking like haystack Magoon for a while. So I finally found a new barber near me. So this is going to work out great. He's Jamaican, man. I'm gonna have I'm gonna have dreadlocks in no time. Anyway, um, hey Goldfinger, how you doing? Um, so let's get started. Now, one of the things is that you want to find a great. Hey, Rancher, how you doing, Clyde? I think the first thing to me, this is what's most important. Maybe not to everybody, but really enjoying learning about watches. I mean, people talk about. I was just going over the comments from the last video I had, and someone says, "Well, where do I go? Where do I find these?" Well, I had all of these different things lined up. Look at those, and I used to. Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. Depend on certain things, I guess. But the whole process of searching to me is a lot of fun. And if you don't enjoy the search for finding out about watches and looking under every stone for good deals in watches, I don't think I don't think this video is going to be much help to you, to tell you the truth, because it's not a matter of I'm going to sit here like a lump and someone's going to deliver me a great watch, but rather I enjoy uh, talking about it. I enjoy learning about it from other people. I enjoy learning about it from stuff they have in books, online, every place. And it is sort of like, to me, it's the essence of watch collection, is finding joy in doing this. Now, if you see this, I mean, people say to me, "Oh, that's a lot of work." You're talking to the wrong guy, because I think it's fun, right? So I think that's sort of, I think that's probably the most important starting point, that we can go to on this. So that's sort of the first thing I wanted to say. Now, so how do you go about finding a great watch? Um, HRM, you got some. You recently picked up a lovely watch for only €450. It was a beautiful tank case, an automatic Frederick Piguet movement, and a lacquer dial. That does sound like a nice buy. How you doing, Junior? Um, the lighting and the haircut puts a very with my haircut, I got my Jamaican haircut. Hey, Arthur, the hunt is half the fun. To me, it's most of the fun. I agree, Arthur. HRM, searching for info and models is indeed half the fun. How you doing, Yoas? Okie doke. So, I mean, let's just start that. So, okay, so where do you look? You know, I tell you, there's not a lot of genius to it. I just use a Google search. Now, uh, one of the things I found lately, a really good way to do this, and it's something I've used before, and that's going to the watchbase.com. Go to watchbase.com. You put in the name of a movement. For example, the BVL 199. Well, you say, well, I've never heard of that before. That's most people probably have it. It's the Bulgari movement for, I think, just about all of their octo models. The earlier ones, they used to use ETAs and things like that. So if you don't want that in your in a Bulgari watch, you can put in, do the search, go to uh, to watchbase.com, put in the name of the movement, and then all of the watches with that movement will show up. Now, you don't get, there's I think there's a certain control over that by whatchamacallit, oh, what is their name? By watch base. In other words, I've gone to watch base looking for movements and they're not there, and then I'll do a sort of a Google search. This is weird, and it'll come up on watch base, and I have no idea why it's organized like that, but that's watch base. Hey, Michael, the lessons learned, the success achieved, the mistakes made all contribute to establishing your own guide and process of collecting. Good point. But you can't, I mean, this, I think, Michael, you're absolutely right, but I don't think you get that by, saying, well, I want an Acme watch or whatever you want, and then just say, okay, I'll go to the AD. He's got one. I'll go down there. I, I, I think that's, while it's, possible. I think and I like I said, I agree with you. The research and diligence and everything. And it, if it would be great if there was a comprehensive guide to collecting. You know something? I That's another good point. I when I first or early on in collecting, I got a hold of the wristwatch handbook. I think it was called the wristwatch handbook or the wristwatch collector's handbook, the one that Ryan Schmidt did. And the thing that it has in it is some of the very basic things about some cool things that are done in certain movements, and that helped a lot. So, like I said, if you want to look where not everybody is looking. You have to find out where value is. Now, there's certain sites that I'll go to, but they're like wells now. For example, a place called Shop Worn, Joma Shop, and the Watch Outlet. And there's some other ones too, and eBay, of course, and Chrono 24. Chrono 24 surprises me. Every now and then they got the best deal. Who knows why, but they do sometimes on a pre-owned watch. And another thing I found out too is that if you find something on Chrono 24 and you go down, you dig down, you find out who the dealer is, you can go directly to the dealer and not have to deal at all with Chrono 24 if you want to. But further, you'll find a watch will often be on Chrono 24. It'll be on eBay, and then of course it'll be on the site of the company selling the watch. And the lowest price I always thought would be on the company site, but that's not always true. Yeah, what Watch Wiki, Michael, is another really great place. The thing that you'll find in Watch Wiki is sometimes it's very sparse, but sometimes they'll have something that no one else will have. And that usually has to do with certain kinds of movement or some other feature that I have no idea how they decide on that, but that's a great place to look. Hi, Nate Dog. How can you have a comprehensive guide to collecting? What amount of work of art? Art speaks to the viewer and is purely subjective. Okay, Nate. That's another thing too. Um, s- Depending on what you're being subjective about, I think if you say, okay, everything is subjective, um, and to some extent that's true, but to some extent your subjectivity changes as you become more and more sophisticated with collection. And that's what the fun part is that the further you go into sort of your own knowledge base, the more you're going to find things that aren't exactly visible. And like today, for example, somebody said they wanted to get a nice anniversary watch for their wife. Well, a number of years ago, I had gotten when my wife and I had, I think it was 25th anniversary or something like that. I went out to get her a good watch, and what I found, I went to this place, and they had these huge discounts on Beauvais women's watches, and they were really, really nice watches. They were brand new, case and everything. And so what I went back to the same place today when I was sort of thinking about what this guy wanted, and so I gave him a link to it. But that's another kind of thing. Now that's a very special thing because I know they have these watch and they have that watch and so forth. Another thing I learned today too. Um, Christopher Ward. I was very happy with Christopher Ward about 4 years ago. I did a video on Christopher Ward and was talking about their SH21, their movement that they had developed. Apparently, they quit using it. I'm not sure why, but I went back there and all of their movements now were Solita of some sort. They've always had either ETA or Solita in a lot of their watches, but then when they came out with the SH21, I thought, well, all of them they're going to start moving that direction. I guess they decided not to. And there could be a good reason. The SH21 may not have been as good as the Solita and a lot more expensive. It's hard to tell sometimes, but that's another thing too. Uh, we don't know everything going on, and some watch company is trying to stay above water, and either that or they just have a certain philosophy. And the more you look at them, the more you can sort of figure out that philosophy. Cartier came out. This is really surprised me. Cartier says we really don't care that much about movements and calibers and so forth. Here they had one of the best watchmakers in the world in Carol Fostier Sapapi, and then they say, well, we don't care that much about it. Nevertheless, you can find some great watches, I suppose, from them in some places, but you have to know what to look for and not look for. Um, do you have a target percentage discount you suggest in C24? Good question. Ah, man. The other day I was feeling stupid, and so I put in a bid. It wasn't a low bid, but it was a bid for a watch that I wanted, and it wasn't enough, and so I walked away from it. That's another thing too. Sometimes with this watch, I I put in a bid, and I thought they'd never accept it, and they did. So I ended up with a watch I ended up really liking. By the way, let me tell you something sort of interesting about this. This watch is my Fabergé Alexi. Um, and at the time when I got it, there were a lot of them advertised for around six something, 6,000 something. And it was not hard to find a watch. I mean, it wasn't hard for me to drop the price, make an offer a couple $1,000s under that and get the watch. And since then, that whole thing has dried up. There weren't that many to begin with. I know they didn't make that many, and I guess they just weren't popular. First of all, the name Fabergé, people think, oh, well, either Fabergé egg maker or Fabergé fashion watch. And that's something that has proven to be one of my best resources, has been fashion names like um, Fabergé, like Chanel. Two of my favorite watches, one Chanel, one Fabergé, another one Van Cleef and Arpels. There are fashion watches, and there are incredible watches by companies that have a lot of experience and a lot of skills, and a lot of people with it who can make cases. They're jewelers. I mean, in Switzerland, a lot of the early watchmakers were actually, who made cases, actually were jewelers. They were jewelry makers. And this was back, Calvin had taken over Geneva and said, okay, you guys, here are the new rules. We're going to forget doing all this jewelry and stuff. We're going to do practical stuff. Well, what's happened to all the goldsmiths and the jewelry makers and so forth? Well, they said, well, hey, we can make watches. And so a lot of you go back and you look at Vacheron Content 10, some of the older ones, some of the early, Patek Philippe. I think originally one of the guys it was Chapek and Philippe, something like that. And they were they were making, and also Beauvais, not Beauvais, but Breguet. They were making watches as sort of for royalty and so forth. So that's a place. Now, some of the newer ones, like Nomos. Nomos is a good example, I think, of a really good watch company that is relatively new. And then you have the post reunification German watches. They're all over the map. Most of them, unfortunately, have Swiss movements. Nothing wrong with Swiss movements, but you want to see German movements and German watches. Things like Marco Lang made for Lang and Heim. Some of the things like Kadoki is doing, in terms of sort of a larger amount, I think Tutima would be the one to look at for that, for some German watches. So, I mean, is that this is one other thing too that's sort of like, I don't think any kind of watch knowledge, even though it may seem trivial at the time, may not be useful. I was looking at a Tutima, forgot the name of it, but forgot the model name. But I knew that, I think it was Rolf Lang. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's Rolf Lang, made a minute repeater for Tutima. He used to work there. He was one of their instructors. He also had Alanga and I think maybe Glashütte original. I'm not sure. Anyway, so Rolf Lang had made that. I knew about the minute repeater. So I was reading about this watch, and it said all they did was they took that same movement, took out the minute repeater, and that's the movement you get. So there's this incredible movement, and so many people say, "Oh, well, it's sort of a worked over ETA." It wasn't. It was the opposite. It was sort of I hate to use the term dumbed down. I mean, but when you go from a minute repeater to time only, I guess you could say that, but that's not in a bad way. I should say com complication down. So, I mean, there's things like that, and so here you have this piece of, like, I can't afford minute repeaters, but it's interesting to know about them, and so but then when I found out that Tutima had taken, uh, a minute repeater and then knocked out one of the parts. See, this was not done, it was like you don't pick up a shovel to dig a ditch when you're doing the research. You're having fun. You're messing around with it. When you're avoiding some chore your wife has for you. That's fun. Oh, let's see. Bulgari offers great value as well. No kidding. I love them. They are one of the best deals around. They're really excellent. A Zenith Caliber 400. I own a chronograph from them with a Zenith Caliber 400. Now, why would that be? Well, they're both owned by LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Bulgari and Zenith both. And so you have some interplay there. Plus, they have a movement maker arm too, like Beauvais has Demier and H. Moser has Precision Engineering. Oh, let's see. I find action quite fun and good source, but um, to buy a watch at a very good price. I said, "Hey, Chili Burger, Timo, I struggle to not have a watch on my wrist. First research tons, found a great deal, had it shipped, and did not like it then. Finding it was more fun than keeping. Finding it was more fun than keeping. I guess that could be true. What I found about this, when you put in a sort of what you consider ridiculously low bid for a watch, just because you're just took your stupid pill in the morning, and then they accept it, so you get the watch. I thought, oh man, what am I going to do here? I got this watch, this Fabergé. What it turned out to be one of my favorite watches, and I have no idea why. I just love this watch. It keeps great time. It's got a solid back, so I can't see the movement, but I know what the movement is at Frederic Piguet, and I also know that they went to the trouble to have this Imperial Eagle as a rotor on their watch, but then they covered it up. It doesn't matter, I guess, because I don't know why I like the watch so much. I think one of the reasons is very well made. Here's a case of where you got a white gold case. You've got a carbuncle at the top of the crown. It's automatic. I don't like automatics. I like hand wound. I still like this one though. I'm not crazy about Roman numerals. This has got Roman numerals. It's got italicized Roman numerals, but every time I look at this, it's got this hand machine, rose machine guilloche on it. It's just I don't know. It's a really funny thing. Some watches, I think, like Timo had said, you get the watch, and it wasn't all that, but other times, you find these watches and they're just great. Rancher has this great one. One of the ones we talked about was Van Cleef and Arpels, and I love that watch. I really do, but Rancher got it. Uh, oh, let's see. Currently on the hunt for a Flieger. Really like Laco. I like Laco too. Laco's a cool one. Hi, Lee. Okies break out coats when it's in the 80s. Hey, God. We're down to the 80s. Hey, John. Some watch manufacturers are hard to track down. Picanet French will be able to have, uh, will I be able to have it maintained? Good question. One of the things is that, is that like, oh, my watch isn't, has got a Salida in it, or you got no, or an ETA. You have no problem finding a watchmaker for those, but you get a watch with a made by, uh, like a, uh, like we have with our, for example, the watchmaker, our watchmaker for Agenor. I don't know if anyone can handle that or not. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Um, and I don't think that Agenor is really in the business of doing that. They'll fix it up. The ones that we have, we had one guy had a problem with his, and they fixed it for him right away. Now, here's another kind of thing that, in terms of answering your question, what about service? Now, this is a Daniel Roth, and oh God, his movements I think are based on Lamania to a great extent. And I don't know, if they pop that open, it's not so much the whether they can figure it out or not, but rather getting the parts. And that may be an issue. So it's one of the things. But I like the watch so much, it's a retrograde that I don't care. And that's another thing. Here we are collecting archaic watches. And you know, um Rolex early days, 40s, 50s, did they okay, a question about Rolex. Did they make movements for other brands? I don't know. That's a good question, Eric. Um, the other day, I was looking for something on Fiedler hands, and I found some. They come in these little cards, and they put the hands in these little slots in these little very light cardboard paper shipping slots, and it was a Rolex. So I think I'd heard that Fiedler made hands for Rolex, but I didn't see them, and there they were. Um, but I don't know if they made movements for other brands. I think they probably definitely had other brands make movements for some of theirs. That wouldn't. Well, I know that they had a numero uno, I guess, from Zenith in their Daytona at one time. Hey, Nate Doug, I put in a stupid low bid on a Louis Iradex Macera Lab regulator on eBay, brand new, and offered 50% of it and won it. That was one of my favorites. That's a nice one, too. It's a very nice one. The best place for a burger is right next to peanut butter and jelly. Okay. Uh, Well, you got a good movement doesn't have to be necessary in-house. Yeah, 6498-1. Yeah, I agree. God, I keep getting. I know that they're one of my favorite movements. Um, uh-oh, it's it's time. Well, let me see these last group that you got. Okay, how do you go about finding deals when talking with other collectors? Always feels awkward to be asking if another man's timepiece is available. I don't do that really. I guess, if somebody says, "Oh, I'm thinking of selling this," I might ask, "Well, what do you want for it?" But by and large, I don't. Dominic, there are still a bunch of old school watchmakers that can make parts. Yes, they're hard to find, but you're right, there are. There's this one guy in New York that must be 102, and he's still doing everything. My Daniel Roth chronograph with the El Primero movement has been in service for a bit of time now. Surprisingly, even how popular the El Primero movement is, the watch is still, my goodness. I hope they get it done pretty quick. One movement I know for a fact is impossible to maintain is the ultra thin Jaeger-LeCoultre movement. No one can find any of the micro bearings. Wow. Yeah, Canadian watchmaker. The thing about the 6498 is a nice big movement. In fact, at the Horological Society of New York, they have their on their weekend show watchmaking thing. They had that. Okay, guys. Okay, here's what I'd like to do. Let's do this. Let's have between now and 4 o'clock, if if you can make it at the 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, New York time. If you can come back, we'll have another one of these. And what I'd like you to do between now and then, and I'll do the same thing, is go out and find a great deal. And then come back with the greatest deal. You can say where you got it or where you found the deal too, unless you want to get it and then you don't tell anybody. Don't be, I mean, we can have fun, but don't be stupid, whatever you do. Okay. So if you come back at 4 o'clock, we'll all have a watch that we can say, okay, here's how I found the watch, and I want your story on that. Okay, doke. Everyone, take care, and hope to see you this afternoon. Meantime, stay safe.